All right. I had Ivan Pavlov for behaviorism. This is a background of Pavlov. He is a Russian-born psychologist theorist based in behaviorism, but he was actually had his doctorate in chemistry and physiology. He works mostly on digestion and blood and circulation, which is how he became known for his dog dog experiment. And he was a professor of physiology at the Imperial Medical Academy. His dog experiment is how he became famous. He actually did the study in digestion, not really in psychology. He was looking into the dog's digestive process while while looking at the interaction between salivation and the action of the stomach. As he was experimenting with this, he realized that the interaction was closely linked by reflexes in the autonomic nervous system, and then he wanted to see if an external stimulus could interfere with this process. He rang a metronome or bell, and at the exact same time, he gave the dog a treat, and the dog would salivate when he saw the treat. After a while, Pavlov stopped, or he stopped giving the treat, but he kept ringing the bell, and the dog would still salivate to the bell. But after a while, the dog would stop salivating to the bell if he did not get this treat within a certain amount of times he did it, which created classical conditioning. And then this is how we get the theory of behaviorism. Or some people they based behaviorism off of classical conditioning, in which he founded. It sums as there's a neutral stimulus, which by itself will not produce a response. There is an unconditioned stimulus, which will produce the unconditioned response. But if you present the neutral stimulus and the unconditioned stimulus together, eventually the dog will learn to associate the two, and the neutral stimulus will provide the same response as the unconditioned stimulus. This is called a conditioned response. So that's how it happens. The bell was the unconditioned stimulus, and each time you presented it with the neutral stimulus, which is the treat, the dog would associate the two, and the neutral stimulus would provide the same as the unconditioned stimulus. This is called the conditioned response. The implications within the classroom could be negative or positive depending on how a teacher or student came in contact with it. Students could be bullied by other students, which would create a phobia of school, or not necessarily a phobia, but a fear of school. They wouldn't want to come to school anymore, which means they would not want to further their education. That would really affect the student. Or even if he was humiliated or punished by a teacher, he might not like school in any way and then not want to further his education. Also, there are pros to this. We would be able to help students and if we praise them and stuff, we could create better memories and they would want to further their education. An interesting fact is there are criticisms that say that it takes away free will, that classical conditioning creates a way that the person has no control over the reactions they learn from it. It's based on controlled experiments such as Pavlov's dog. It takes a complex behavior and breaks it down to smaller stimulus response units of behavior, noting that behavior they're not trying to say everything's based off this one thing. They're saying that it's through certain things that create a certain personality. And the cons is people think it takes away free will, as I said earlier. And here are my references. And that's all, folks.